The truth is an irony, just like animal farm. Justice mean inequity. So who go say the truth? Who go say the truth? Christian can say silence. Islamic leaders silence. Kings and queens silence. Traditional leaders silence. So who go say the truth? We are the workers of composite call. Now by area, why no better? We are the workers of composite call. One guy's out here, why no better? Who go say the truth? Who go say the truth? Oh, he did not see what I see so. Now your friend on a nine come at them. Only baby obeka nice and yeah. So I want to bet you too. Everybody was afraid. And when Tina Nantuma caught it again, once my boy dumping one and I see. But who go tell the truth? Nanai or say me. Nanso bien peso beka wasam because everybody is afraid. Anya safwe muayini. Aku drofo nyina dalima. And see who go say the truth. Obiaja konson so to kroche mansa to me biaka kobrafo. Efo anyina ye. Efo when you know yet. Na so kutrata down na so bidia back or why no keke. I fene for be man mo pia for efo ne cross on my mo. Hanya safwe mo ayini. Akuku trofo nyina dalima. And who go say the truth? Abaya di bote chino. Yedi bi bebo nyande bi kachisa wudi oma opipi numa wudi oma never shana frafonsa. But who go tell the truth? TUC silence, even journalists silence. So then who go say the truth? Right is right. Wrong is wrong, no matter how you justify. You say you wanna get rid of corruption. Someone want to help you, now the person become your target. Jobless no they mean senseless. Poverty no they mean useless. One day them go resist.
Hello, good evening to you, our cherished viewers and listeners. Depending on wherever you are watching us from, for those of you who are watching us from the Americas, maybe it's good afternoon. Those in Europe and Africa, maybe it's a good evening. And those in the Far East, it's a good morning or probably late evening for you. And we welcome you all to yet another exciting edition of MyView show here live on Today Ghana News TV. You are also joining us live on Sakina Information Center in Teteli in Northern Ghana, in High FM 93.7 in Achinhimai in the Eastern region. We are also live today on the King's Radio in Accra, and also live on all your social media handles, on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok, and on Twitch as well. Last week, we embarked on a journey across West Africa, where we talked about the fragile state of West Africa with a very exciting guest of ours. This week, we are continuing down that lane. And today, we are expanding our tentacles to some other West African countries. Today, we are landing live in Freetown, Sierra Leone, to discuss the fragile state of the democratic situation in Sierra Leone. And more especially, we want to explore the role of opposition parties as far as this is concerned. And we are very lucky and fortunate to be joined today by Sidi Yaya Tunis. Mr. Sidi Yaya Tunis is the National Publicity Secretary of the All People's Congress, APC, in Sierra Leone. He is also the former Minister of Tourism and Culture, also the former Director of Strategic Communication of the National Ebola Response Team Center, and also a former Director of ICT at the Ministry of Health and Sanitation. Good evening, Mr. Yaya, and welcome to MyView show on Today GhanaNews TV.
Good evening, Albert. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening.
It is indeed a pleasure for me and for all our viewers for you to be able to join us today. In case today is probably your first time of joining us. In case you are not aware, we have a reputation for serving the best dinner on Monday evenings. And today we are inviting you to have dinner with us.
Thank you very much. I mean, that will be timely, considering the time here. I've not yet made it home, so I know dinner will be timely and it will be sumptuous.
Wonderful. It will be sumptuous because you are going to be the master chef of today's dinner. Mr. Yaya, which name do you prefer that we use? Tunis?
I mean, you can use Yaya, you can use Tunis, anyone.
Okay, Mr. Tunis. How are you doing?
I'm pretty well, thank you. I mean, I'm healthy, I'm sound, and we continue to push to ensure that the right things are done in Sierra Leone, and by extension, West Africa and Africa at large.
Wonderful. And by that, we would want to know how you are in Freetown, right?
Yes, I'm in Freetown.
And how is Freetown? How is the Freetown, and how are the people of Freetown doing?
Well, I'll say you can answer that in several ways. I mean, politically, we know we still have a political stalemate since the elections of June 24, 2023. So there is still pretty much political tension between the ruling party and the main opposition. In terms of security, generally, I would say it is calm, even though we're hearing of arrests by security forces purporting or alleging that there was an attempted coup that leaked. So they are busy arresting people. A good number of military and police personnel have been arrested, as well as some civilians. But I'm not a security person, so I will not dwell much into that. But on the whole, the country is quiet, the city is quiet. We have several checkpoints, but people are going about their normal business. But we still have some political problems to solve, mainly between the ruling party and the main opposition.
Wow. Mr. Tunis, we wanted to set off on a light note by serving you appetizer, but you have taken us straight into the main course. Okay. I mean, for the benefit of our viewers and our listeners who are not familiar with the political terrain in Sierra Leone, can you give us a brief idea as to what kind of governance system, political governance system you have in Sierra Leone as it stands? Or probably before we get there, it probably makes it's probably good for you to give us maybe a brief history of your democratic journey. Then you top that up with a political situation.
Okay, so we have a constitution that is a democratic constitution that allows for multi-party democracy. So, which means we have multiple registered political parties that are allowed to contest in elections. And for us in Sierra Leone, we have multi-tier elections. What do I mean by that? We have elections every 5 years. And normally we have elections at the same time on the same day for the president, that is electing the president, electing the members of parliament, that is the legislature, and then also we elect the local government, the mayors for cities, the district council chairpersons for the district headquarter towns, and then the councillors for all the councils that fall within the cities and those districts. We have 16 electoral districts, and then we have about 6 cities. And so on the 24th of June, for example, this year, we had elections wherein the president was elected, as well as the members of parliament and those councillors. So that is our political makeup. So we have an executive type of government wherein we have the executive president, the vice president that run the executive with the cabinet ministers appointed by the president. And then, of course, we have the parliament, that is the legislature, that is headed by Speaker of Parliament. And then we have the various leaders of the parties that will be elected in Parliament, majority, minority leaders, as well as any other political party if it is above 2. And then, of course, we have the councils, wherein the city councils are headed by mayors, and then the district councils are headed by chairpersons. But so these are basically the political makeup. And of course, we have the judiciary, that is another arm, headed by the Chief Justice of our country.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Sierra Leone has been on this democratic trajectory for how long?
Well, since I would say since 2002. The constitution we have now is a democratic constitution that came into existence in 1991. So it is the 1991 constitution. But of course, whilst we were preparing to get into elections under this constitution, we had an interruption because we had a military coup that took place in 1992 that interrupted the elections process. So after that, we had a civil war that exacerbated that. So our first democratic election really happened under this constitution in 1996. So I would say this system of governance that I just spoke about really started in 1996. But then, because we still had war in some parts of the country and there were no existing constituencies, we were forced at that time to use what we call the district block system of proportional representation, wherein members of parliament were not elected under constituencies, but they were elected under district block systems, and they were allocated by political parties based on the percentage scored by those parties in the elections. And that is the kind of system also we used for this election that we just conducted in 2023, even though we were not supposed to. But as we go further into the program, I'll explain, why I said that. Like I said, I don't want to take you again to the main course. Let's stick with the appetizers.
Yes, let's take it one step at a time. One step at a time. Yeah. All right. And so you just mentioned that you had I guess successful elections this year, early this year, right?
Yes, in June 24th, in 2023. Yes.
Okay. And how was the election? How was the electoral process like?
Well, for me, I'll say it is probably the most difficult election that we have witnessed as a country since we started practicing democracy. So many things went wrong as far as the elections process were concerned. From the onset of activities of the Electoral Commission, even before the elections. For example, the introduction of the district block proportional representation system that was forced on the people of Sierra Leone. The Constitution of Sierra Leone says where existing constituencies are available, there is no need for district block system. But what the government did, they carried out what they call midterm census. According to them, they said the census was for development purpose. But of course, we knew that they wanted to use it for elections purpose. So they did the midterm census with the intention to do fresh boundary delimitation so that they can redistribute constituencies. But of course, when they did the census, they did not have enough time and even the resources to do the boundary delimitation. So what did they do? They resorted to forcing a bill through Parliament to bring in the district block proportional representation, which is one of the major issues we had. We challenged them in court. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court of Sierra Leone interpreted the Constitution wrongly, and they gave them a okay for us to go with the district block system, which is a precedent that has now been set by the Supreme Court of Sierra Leone. So they legalized it. So we went, we continued, campaign started. For the opposition, it was mad with violence. We were attacked severally by members of the ruling party and security forces. It will interest you to know that our candidate, the main candidate for the APC, the presidential candidate for the All People's Congress, Dr. Samora Kamara, survived 3 assassination attempts from no less a person but security forces, police and military combined. Our party headquarters in Freetown was attacked twice. Somebody was killed in the office and another person was killed just in front of the party office. So we went through all that. On elections day, the south and the eastern part of the country, which is mainly dominated by members and supporters of the ruling party, there were areas where opposition party agents were not allowed. At least 4 districts, opposition party agents were not allowed, to supervise or to monitor voting in those areas. So you would expect that areas like those, the Elections Commission should automatically cancel or call for re-election, but that did not happen. They allowed the elections to go on, even though the military had to escort agents of political party representatives of the All People's Congress because of their safety and security. But we held the elections and all of that. And while the Constitution of Sierra Leone and the Elections Act clearly states how tallying, counting, and results management should be done, as well as certification of results, the Elections Commission of Sierra Leone decided to do something different. Whilst the counting and tallying was going on, before even inputting results from certain districts into the tallying system, they went ahead and announced 60% of results. Nobody knows where they got the results from, but they went ahead and announced putting the incumbent president way ahead of the opposition. And by the time you know it, the next day, they pronounced him president and winner of the elections. So, of course, as opposition, we challenge that. But knowing our experience with the Supreme Court, having pending cases lined up in the Supreme Court that were to be decided before elections, but never decided, we decided that we will not go to court, but we will take political actions to address the political situation that we have at hand at the moment.
All right, Mr. Tunis, before we examine the political actions that you took, I would want us to clarify a few issues. In your submission, you stated that the government embarked on a census, right? And based on that census, there were delineations moving into the elections. Now, the government is not the one that organizes elections, right? The government elections in Sierra Leone, to the best of my knowledge, is organized by an independent electoral commission. So why are you lumping up? Why are you fusing the government with the independent electoral commission?
Well, several issues. The Elections Commission is supposed to be an independent commission, but unfortunately it is not, my brother. The electoral commissioners are all appointed by the president. In fact, we had a case in court. One of the first cases that we took to court was the appointment of the chief electoral commissioner, who is clearly a card-carrying member of the ruling SLPP. That in itself is a violation. That is one. Secondly, also, the man was already employed. He was a public officer appointed by the president to head the financial intelligence unit. He was the executive director of that unit, and he was moved from that unit. He was moved on from that unit and sent to the Electoral Commission to serve as the chief electoral commissioner. We challenged his appointment in court, and again, like I said, the Supreme Court gave the go-ahead. And we also challenged the constitution of the management staff of the Electoral Commission, which were all dominated by one tribe, mainly belonging to the ruling class. And secondly, also, a good number of them were identified to be members of the ruling party. These are issues we challenge. So even before we went into the elections, we knew the biased makeup of the Electoral Commission. But we trusted the people of Sierra Leone, their determination, and how much popular our party was, which is why we had confidence that as long as we go into the elections and the voting is counted properly, we will emerge winners of the election. But unfortunately, the Electoral Commission did not announce results based on the votes that were cast. We have no idea where they got the results from that they announced. But as you know, all of the observers, local and international, clearly stated that the results announced by the Electoral Commissioner does not tally with the actual results from the votes that are cast across the country, which is why we have said that the Electoral Commission should publish results by polling stations across the country so we can compare what they have announced to what we have based on our RRFs that we collected from all of the polling stations, but they have refused to do that.
Okay. Mr. Tunis, I would want you to hold on to the political actions that you took. So viewers and listeners go nowhere. When we come, we are about to hear the political actions that Mr. Tunis and his political party took when there was they realized there was an issue with the elections. But before we go on the break, I would like to make this announcement. Under the supremacy of Nana Okujamai Opepre the 10th, the chief of Aburasi, we humbly invite our cherished viewers to the coronation of Wafa Sami, the Central Regional Correspondent of Today Ghana News TV, as the Jasehene of Abura. And this event is taking place on Saturday, 2nd September 2023 at the Aburasi Deba grounds. The time is 10 p.m. GM, 10 a.m. Ghana time. So if you are our viewer, if you are a listener, if you are our sympathizer, anybody who finds himself around Aburasi should humbly join Wafa Sami for his coronation at the Jasehene of Aburasi on the 2nd of September 2023. Thank you very much for your attention, and welcome back to the show. So before we go back and we find out the political actions that Mr. Tunis and his political party took, we would like to take some comments from our viewers and our listeners. Leila Mahama says, she's watching from Bielefeld. Good evening. Good evening to you, Leila Mahama, and thanks for doing the watching as always. Robert Kimpi says, good evening, comrades. Watching you from Paris, France. Please kindly ask Mr. Yaya, how does he find life in and out of government? And also, does he feel safe as a spokesperson for the largest opposition party? Good, very, very well. We would ask Mr. Tunis when he's back. Kweku Adi says he's watching us from Amsterdam, Holland. Looking at the current political situation in his country, does he think if there is any coup, the masses would support it? Okay, that's another question we would put to Mr. Tunis when he rejoins us. Osei Superior says, with his narration, it seems they are dining the same song as the NDC in Ghana. The story is the same everywhere in Africa. Watching from Barcelona, Spain. Thank you very much, Osei Superior. NDC Diaspora Union says, please ask him what the political actions they took instead of going to court. The NDC should learn from them. We will put that question to him when he rejoins us. Mavis Boateng says, if you don't listen carefully, you will think the guest is a Ghanaian. The same story ran through West Africa. Mavis, that is a very interesting observation. Nana Tafrim says, I think Africans by nature are fraudulent by nature. He says, yeah, he thinks Africans are fraudulent by nature. Joshua Nadi Kojo, young man, he says, hello to you all. We say hello to you to Joshua. Joshua comes back again. He says, you are doing well. Yes, Joshua, we trust you're also doing well. Thank you very much and welcome back to the show. So we are, if you just tuned in, you are watching MyView show live on Today Ghana News TV. We're also live in Sakina Information Center in Tatali in Northern Ghana. We're live in Hin FM 93.7 FM in Achunhimai in the Eastern region. You're also live on the King's Radio in Accra and also on all social media handles. And today we are having a discussion on the fragile democratic situation in Sierra Leone in West Africa and trying to look at the role of the opposition in particular. And our guest for today is Mr. Sadi Yaya Tunis, who is the spokesperson or the National Publicity Secretary of the All People's Congress of Sierra Leone. Welcome back, Mr. Tunis.
Thank you, Alba.
Before we went on a break, you said you were pretty dissatisfied with how the elections went and how it was conducted and everything that followed. But you did not have faith in the court process or the judicial process, so you decided to take some political action. What are these political actions that you took? There's a political party in Ghana that says they want to learn from you.
Well, thank you very much. Our constitution is such that the Electoral Commission has certain powers, but those powers are also limited. They are supposed to, for example, provide voters register to all political parties 3 months minimum, I mean, even for best practice, before the elections. But of course, the Electoral Commission did not give us the voters register until about 2 weeks to election. And we went to the Supreme Court. They did not decide that case until after the elections. So what did we do? I have to explain this so people will really understand. The proportional representation, for example, the Chief Electoral Commission sets the percentage for any political party to have a seat in Parliament. You must score at least 11.9% of the total vote cast in that particular district. So the seats are to be distributed based on the percentage of results scored. So now we take, for example, one district, Poloko district, where the APC scored out of the total number of people registered, the APC scored over 150,000 votes, and the SLPP scored about 25,000 votes. 25,000 votes. This district has 10 seats to be distributed based on the number of votes scored. Now, for you to have one seat, remember, you should have 11.9%. The ruling party got 25,000 votes. We got over 150,000 votes. The Electoral Commissioner gave us 6 seats and allocated 4 seats to the ruling party. Does that mathematics add up to you? Definitely not.
They've got to have a special formula.
And you flip that around in the southeast, in a district called Kenema, it's exactly the same thing. And you know what? The SLPP got all 12 seats, and the APC got 0 seats. 0 seats. So that's how the Electoral Commission, in his own mathematics that he studied, that's how he distributed his parliamentary seats. So what did we do? When the results came out, after all of our partners, the international observers, the local observers cried that the results are not, representative of the elections, and we asked the Electoral Commissioner to publish, they did not. So we put out a statement that until and unless certain things happen, we made several demands. One, that the Chief Justice of the country should resign because of the way he has handled the judiciary the past 5 years and even during the elections. 2, the head of the police, the Inspector General of the police, the Chief of Defense Staff, because both the military and the police were used to attack opposition areas, to attack our presidential candidates during elections, on voting day and everything. And the shooting done at our party office on June 25, when all of us, including myself, were at our party office, we had over 3 battalions of military and police who surrounded and barricaded our office, fired live bullets into our building. Somebody was killed in there. So until they see the Chief of Defense Staff and the Inspector General resign, and also the Chief Electoral Commissioner and all the 5 commissioners of the Elections Commission, and also the Electoral Commission should publish results by polling stations, and then we should have rerun of the entire election in 6 months' time. Unless and until that happens, we will boycott governance at every level, at parliamentary level and at local council level. All of our elected members of parliament will not go to parliament. All of our councillors, mayors, and district council chairpersons will not go to councils until these demands have been met. And since June 2023, our MPs have not been to parliament, our councillors have stayed put. That is the political action that we have taken so far as opposition party.
But if people from your party are not going to parliament, but parliament is still functioning, right?
Parliament is on, they are running, but then who will want to deal with a one-party state? Because unfortunately, the Electoral Commission only allocated seats to 2 parties, the APC and the SLPP. So if the APC is not in parliament, you have a SLPP running parliament. Who wants, under a democracy, to deal with a single party? So that's the political stalemate we have now in Sierra Leone, between government and the opposition. And we don't want it that way, but I think what is happening in Africa generally, some steps need to be taken to end impunity in these countries across Africa. I mean, coup d'etat is not only defined by military taking over power or people in khakis occupying the state house. What we saw in Sierra Leone is a coup on democracy. Military was used, police was used, the elections commissions used, you name them, the judiciary used, all against the people of Sierra Leone who really wanted to exercise their rights of voting people who they want to govern them. But unfortunately, they did not get that.
Yes. So one of our viewers wanted to know from you that, judging from the situation that the story that you are painting, that if there was a coup d'etat in Sierra Leone, that do you think it's something that the masses would support?
Well, I will not wish for that, because for me, I always say coup involving military, will really not favor anyone, because you have to think of the abuses that may follow. You have to also know that where constitutionality doesn't exist, the rights of citizens are limited. The protection of citizens are limited. So whereas it may gain popularity because of the dissatisfaction of the citizens of the country, I will not favor that. That is one. Secondly, also, no matter what you say, you have to also know that the ruling party also has a lot of support. At least 40% of the people of this country genuinely support the ruling party, and that is a huge number. So I would not wish for a military intervention, because the devastation may be grave, more than what probably we may be experiencing right now. So that is not something that I will support.
All right. You may not support, from your submission, you are not clearly in support, you are not in support of a coup d'etat or any form of destabilization of the system. But what do you think can happen moving forward so that the situation in Sierra Leone gets better?
What we really want to get out of this is we want to be able to do some major reforms that will hold people accountable who will gravely do such manipulation as we saw done by the Chief Electoral Commissioner. I mean, such acts, if actions are not taken, may only embolden people to do even worse in the future. And that is why some of us are very, very much determined to ensure that even where we have to dialogue, we must do it in a way that people will be held accountable. Somebody asked a question earlier, how do I survive or something in opposition, or whether I'm concerned about my safety. You know.
Take it easy. We are going to give that to you as dessert.
I know, you know, we are young Africans. I mean, we see what is happening across Africa. I happen to have been outside of Africa for many, many years. I lived in the United States. I studied information technology, information systems, and public relations. So that is my background. So for me, politics is a service. It is not a career for me. I see it as a service, wherein as a young man, you know, with the experience that I've gained abroad, I think I should contribute to actually transforming the wrongs of my country and making them right. And by extension, Africa, so that we really have an Africa that will work for the people. We have an Africa where our leaders will be held accountable for the way they are governing the people, so that at the end of the day, we don't have people, you know, braving the seas, braving the oceans in search of opportunities in other countries, when by the makeup of our continent, the opportunities that we can create if we have good leaders, you know, it will be so enormous that people will have to leave from other countries to come here in search of jobs, in search of opportunities. So for me, my interest as a politician really is to be able to change things. And unless and until we carry forth with that determination, Africa will remain what it is. We have rogue politicians, we have rogue leaders. Unfortunately, I don't know whether when they go to these conferences, they all just meet and decide to continue to act the way they are acting. I don't know, but I feel as young people, it is time for us to really push in the way that our leaders will be held accountable. As for my safety and security, I've been locked up. You know, I've been locked up in cells, you know, a couple of times. I've been threatened a couple of times, you know. Like I said, in fact, the day our office was attacked, that was my birthday. After people have sung my birthday song for me, I moved 3 steps and I just saw 3 canisters of tear gas land right before me. By the time I know, 2 more landed behind me. So you can tell that I was one of the targets, because, I mean, how could they land? And then my office, the bullet holes are still there. So, but we are faithful, we are hopeful, and we'll continue to believe and pray to Allah to safeguard us. But that should not frighten us, you know, to be coward into, you know, holding back and pushing for these reforms to happen so that we can have a better country and a better continent.
That I don't think that was a good birthday gift they give to you over there. So let's wind up. You have Sierra Leone, we know, has had a
yes, I'm in Britain.
Your country has had a troubled past, has struggled to gain some level of stability over the period. And now you have the chance to create the future that you want for yourselves. And from the narrative that you are giving, it looks to me, and I guess I speak for a majority of my viewers and listeners, that the people to whom the power have been entrusted to are keeping it to themselves and not using it for the service of the Sierra Leoneans. If you had a message for the people who are in charge, what would that message be?
I mean, Sierra Leone was making progress in terms of democracy, reforms, the rule of law. We've had, this was our 5th election since we really started practicing democracy. And we've had transfer of power twice from the opposition to the ruling party. And power was handed over to the current president from the opposition. The APC lost. They were in governance in 2018. They lost, and they peacefully handed power over to President Julius Maada Bio. This has been a pattern. In 2007, under Ahmed Tijan Kaba, the SLPP lost, and they peacefully handed power over to the APC. So we have been acclaimed for our democratic practice. And that is why what happened in June is very, very worrisome to so many of us. I can only plead to the president that we have sincere and meaningful reforms that can strengthen our democracy, that can strengthen our elections process. And we also have constitutional reviews that can speak to the test of times and guarantee the rights of the citizens of this country, the rights to freedom of expression, the rights to freedom of association, the rights to education, good health, medical, food, good water supply, and all of these basic rights that should be guaranteed. These are all human rights of citizens that should be guaranteed by their leaders. Unfortunately, I don't know, my brother, unfortunately, we continue to see these rights depreciate under successive governments across Africa. I am pleading to not only President Bio and his government, but to all of us, politicians, even those of us in opposition, and the entire citizenry. We must sincerely play our parts to ensure that we right the wrongs of the past and we make this country better for us now and for generations that will come after us. Like I said, I do not intend to go back to the United States to live there. I will want to continue to live in my country. But of course, it is painful, my brother. It is painful that as an African, born in Africa, raised in Africa, for the few years that I've spent in the United States, the rights that I enjoy in the United States, I do not enjoy those rights in my own country. That is just painful. That is just sad. And I hope and pray that we can change that.
Thank you very much. We hope and pray too that the situation in Sierra Leone improves for the betterment of the good people of Sierra Leone. Having said that, before we let you go, we would also like to caution you that having experienced this in the position, that when power gets handed to you, you don't get to be the same person who does that to the opposition.
Well, you have my number. If that happens, and you call me back here and put me on the spotlight, so all of Africans will know that this man was just talking. He didn't mean it. But I honestly pray that I do not be that kind of politician ever. I already have a record at my young age in the offices that I've served so far. So I want to maintain that.
Wonderful, wonderful. We can only say thank you to Mr. Sidi Yaya Tunis. Mr. Tunis,
thank you very much.
Mr. Tunis is the National Publicity Secretary of the All People's Congress (APC) in Sierra Leone. But before that, he was also the former minister of Tourism and Cultural Affairs. Also a Deputy Director of Strategic Communications at the National Ebola Response Center. Also a former Director of ICT at the Ministry of Health and Sanitation in Sierra Leone. Thank you very much, Mr. Tunis. We hope you enjoyed our dinner this evening.
Oh yes, I mean it was a pleasure. I hope my recipe added some flavor to the dinner.
Wonderful. It really did. It really did, and we are very happy to have you. So
thank you
to our wonderful viewers and listeners. This has been yet another exciting edition of my View show on Today Ghana News TV, live on the internet, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Twitch. Also live on Sakina Information Center in Tatali in Northern Ghana, live on FM 93.7 FM in Atwin, and also live today in the King's Radio in Accra, Ghana. This has been this week's show. And before we close, we would like to give this announcement again, that under the supremacy of Nana Okujama Opre the 10th, the chief of Abrashi, we humbly invite our cherished viewers to the coronation of Wafa Sami. Wafa Sami is the correspondent of Today Ghana News TV in the Central Region, and the coronation will be taking place at the Deba grounds in Abrashi on the 2nd of September 2023, time 10 a.m. and Wafa Sami is being crowned, or his coronation is as the Jasehine of Abrashi in the Central Region. So thank you very much to you, our viewers and our listeners. And until we come your way next week with yet another exciting discussion, stay tuned to Today Ghana News TV, and don't forget to like us on all your social media platforms and follow us as well. Thank you and have a good evening.
The country where I come from, the truth is an irony. Just like animal farm, justice mean inequity. So who go say the truth? Who go say the truth? Christian can say silence, Islamic leaders silence, kings and queens silence, traditional leaders silence. So who go say the truth? We are them go so confused the call. Now by area why no better. We are them go so confused the call. One guy's out here why no better. Who go say the truth?